Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
It is us, once again, the show rated to be 40,000 times dirtier than your average toilet seat. Audience of one, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. right here on Conroe's KZCC 106.1 and 104.5. IRLoneStar.com and all of your major podcasting platforms, as well as YouTube and Facebook. I am your host, Andrew Belshner, and sitting alongside sitting alongside Montgomery County's best Jenkum Party host, Dick Schisler.
Oh, yeah. Jenkum is right.
Yeah. How was your last Jenkum Party, man?
It was good. Only 3 people passed out.
Oh, that's not a good party.
Yeah.
Man. I figured it'd be better the more people passed out.
The first one to wake up is a loser.
Right. So it's funny you mentioned this Jenkum last week, and of course, if you weren't listening last week, a quick review of what Jenkum actually is. This is people who ferment poop to get high.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Look it up.
Yeah, it is. And so I told you last week I thought that I had heard of this, and I kept thinking, where did I hear about it? Well, I took a class in college called Magic, Ritual, and Religion. I think it was with like Dr. Garber, if I can remember correctly. And it basically focused on the occult and mysticism and things like this. But I seem to remember this being something that was brought up as a way that people would get high. It seemed like a lot of the stuff in that class was about people doing drugs and shape-shifting and getting in touch with gods and spirits and things. But, you know, that's where I think I heard of it.
Cool.
I'm glad you're keeping the tradition alive.
I just like learning about creepy, weird stuff. And when I heard that people were getting high off their poop, I'm like, what? What?
Oh, man. Do you have anything interesting this week go on? I did, actually.
Not too much, man. Just the normal day-to-day stuff. Ate a lot of crawfish this weekend to the point where my hands are all tingly still.
Yeah, you said that earlier before the show started that your hands are tingly. I'm not sure I've ever had that where your fingers get tingly.
It's
maybe
like
where your
spice.
lips.
It's like spice. So it's like if you handle a lot of crawfish over time, especially mine were really spicy.
Yeah.
Like da bomb spicy.
Ooh.
And so like it lingers for a good bit.
How's the bathroom situation going today?
That's fine.
Okay, that's good. That's always something to consider and keep in mind is, bad bathroom situation after crawfish that are too spicy.
That's why you eat all the potatoes.
Well, but the potatoes can be spicy too.
No, everything was good.
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. Once you load it up with all that spice, everything
good.
in there is good.
Yeah, best in town is the place we go to. It's this guy's front yard.
Always the best.
And
when it's unsanctioned, the health department can't put their fingers on it. Yeah, that's the best.
It's a little creepy. Would it surprise me there's some Jenkum in the garage? I don't know.
That's after hours.
I don't know what goes on at that place, but it's in the guy's house.
I suppose if you have the equipment to broil crawfish, you could probably also ferment the poop. I don't know. It might be the same equipment.
But it is strange, though, because you've been there. I know we've talked about it.
What, Jenkum's?
No, Best in Town.
I don't know that I've been there. I know you've talked about it before.
Well, yeah, because it's in a guy's front yard. Like, straight up.
No, I can't.
It's in his front yard.
I think I would remember that.
Yeah, because I remember the first time we're going, and I'm like, well, you're supposed to turn into this neighborhood? That's weird. And I turn into the neighborhood, it's the first house on the right, and you're like, oh, there's a food truck. And there's like an RV awning thing.
Oh, wow.
And then that's where you sit under.
There must not be any like HOA, homeowners, because otherwise you're not going to have a food truck in there.
But yeah, it's cool. It's in the dude's front yard, man.
Cool. I went out to the Insperity Golf Classic.
That's random.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't, considering I live in the Woodlands and this tournament is held in the Woodlands. It's really, really close by. For those of you who don't know what this is, it's a Senior Champions Tour professional golf event. And I never have gone out there in all the years I've lived here, but I've wanted to. Well, this year they had a Legends of Golf event, and Jack Nicklaus was going to be there, Lee Trevino, Annika Sorenstam, Gary Player, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, I need to get out and see these guys because
was it free?
Yeah, it's free to get in, free parking. I mean, it's crazy. It's going on again today, Sunday, as we record. The weather was not great. It was overcast, really windy, and kind of cold. Of course, today the weather's beautiful. But I got to see Jack in person and Gary Player and all those people. So I figured it was a win because you don't know how much longer you're going to have with those guys. To be honest with you, I know I didn't get to see Arnold Palmer before he passed, and that was kind of a bummer. So with it being literally 10
let
minutes,
that bother you?
Well, it doesn't bother. I don't stay awake at night going, gosh.
Well, you literally just said, I guess, causes problems for you.
Yeah. It doesn't keep me up at night, but I am bothered to a degree that I never got to at least see him because he's such an ambassador of the game. And if you're a fan of golf, you want to see those.
That's got to be so strange though, because golfing is such a technical thing, and you're like, oh man, Arnold Palmer, he's used to be the best, and then you go see him, he's like this decrepit old man.
Yeah,
can barely swing. Like, why would you want to see that?
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring that up. It was a little sad in a way
I
to
don't
see
watch
the
this
guy
guy
who's
embarrass
arguably
himself.
the greatest golfer to ever live. I mean, you can make the argument for Tiger Woods. He was certainly the most dominant, but Jack being the greatest or regarded as the greatest, to see him kind of hunched over and couldn't even really swing a club very well. It is a little sad to see, but at the same time, to be in the presence of greatness like that, it's kind of a cool thing. And I watched him play the first hole, and
it's just another old dude.
It's not just another old dude.
Yeah, it is.
No. I mean, he may look like it to the untrained eye.
I would be
right?
amazed if I could, if his current condition opposed to like meeting him when he's in his prime.
Right.
That's different. But if it's just another old dude, who cares?
Yeah, but it's not just
Like, he
another
can't
old
hit
dude,
the
it's a
same.
Jack. No,
He's
he
not
cannot.
the same person.
No, he cannot.
Probably wearing diapers.
He might.
Yeah,
He
for
might
his
have
Jankum collection.
That'd be some legendary jankum. All right, man.
That's funny though. I just don't get the idea of, in a sense, celebrity stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I don't really,
I'm not a huge celebrity guy either. I know some people that chase that stuff down and they live it.
How many people were at this thing? It was free. Were you basically the only one there?
Oh no, it was very well attended.
Okay.
It was very well attended.
Well,
But
I'm just curious because golf, like going to watch golfing, it's got to be strange.
Well, it's hard to judge how many people are at a golf event because there's no there's stands in certain areas, but it's so spread out that you could have 20, 30,000 people there, and not really notice it because it's spread out over 18 holes. And so there were several hundreds around the first tee to watch them tee off. So it was cool. I'm glad I went. In the end,
That's
I'm glad I went.
good.
Yeah. All right, man. I wanted to bring this to air. I think by now probably just about everybody has heard about this. The story was all over the place. Pretty big one, and I'm talking about the Down syndrome Barbie. Did you hear about Down syndrome Barbie and the fact that Mattel has decided to release a Barbie? So first I'll preface it with this, that I don't have a problem that they're doing this. I think this is good that you can make a doll that someone with this condition can identify with. That's fine. I don't want anybody to mistake what I'm saying here, but I did find it a little ironic because let's be honest, the doll itself.
Here, I'm gonna pull it up for our audience.
Yeah. The doll itself obviously does not have Down syndrome, right? It's a doll. It can't have it. So all it's going to have are the characteristics of someone with Downs. So it struck me as a little odd because this is a company, Barbie, Mattel, whatever, has been making dolls for 50 years who've been criticized for making dolls that don't look like any human female, right? And suddenly, they've always got the rap that their waist is too tiny and their breasts are too big. It's unrealistic, and you actually have these young ladies who might actually already be attractive women trying to look like Barbie dolls and doing surgery and all this stuff to look like Barbie. So they never really made an attempt, in my opinion, to actually have a doll that looks like a real person. So I found it a little ironic. And then number two, doll doesn't really look all that Downs to me.
I mean, I don't really know what makes a Downs person, but yeah, when I saw the doll, I was like, it looks like a doll.
Right. I didn't think that it stood out to me.
I don't know. Because, there's some jacked up dolls.
Oh, scary ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like in
it's
scary
kinda
movies
like-
and stuff like that, yeah.
Again, this is one of those situations I wish I was in the boardroom. Like, what we need to do? We got this Barbie movie coming out. We can't screw it up. Let's not do anything that would be, hurtful. It's like, well, we need to get in front of something. Like, what do we need to get in front of? Well, we don't have a Downs Barbie. Good point. We need to get a Downs Barbie. Well, we already have a mold. We can already make this doll. We can just call that one the Downs baby doll.
Right.
And it's like, perfect. We saved all this money. And it's like they didn't probably even attempt to make a Down's
Well,
baby
it
doll.
does say that they worked with the National Down Syndrome Society to create a Barbie to ensure the doll accurately represents a person with Down syndrome.
I guess. I mean, when I pulled it up for the audience,
Are you sure that's the Down syndrome Barbie I'm looking at? I mean, it just looks like a...
yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the link you sent me, and says Mattel's
Yeah, that's
first
it.
Barbie doll
Yeah,
representing a
that's
person with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
I think it's funny. It says the Barbie also wears foot orthodontics,
Yeah, I
which
saw
some
that.
children
Yeah, let me
with,
pull-
with
hold
Down
on.
syndrome use. So that's good. I mean, if you're someone who has this condition, and you can identify with the doll, that's great.
does she have superhuman strength?
Okay. You're being insensitive.
I
Nick.
mean, they're really strong.
Yes, you're being insensitive. Careful.
I'll never forget one of my best friends' cousin is Downs, Chris Parker. That's the boy's name, and we were having such a fun time playing pool basketball, and he went up there and tore it down. I was like, "Whoa, dude!"
I think they don't understand restraint necessarily to
It was
the same
awesome.
degree.
I thought it was awesome.
You just
Because it was one of those basketball goals that you can use as an actual basketball goal, and then allow you to lower it really low, so you can actually wheel it to the pool. And he pulled that whole thing into the pool. I was like,
Wow.
this is gonna be fun getting out.
yeah.
But
It says the doll with Down syndrome is part of Mattel's 2023 Fashionista line, which is aimed at increasing diversity and inclusivity.
that's great.
Yeah, right. Well, I think there's also another one. Yeah, here it is. It says it includes a Ken doll with a prosthetic leg. So,
Is that like The Fugitive?
that was an arm, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I also read that part of this fashionista line is a Ken doll. Maybe you'll be more interested in this, and
Well,
maybe you can
well,
identify.
we should-
He's a slender version of Ken, so he's not all jack and buffed.
Oh,
so,
he's
so,
goth?
So
He's like the
No,
goth
he's not
version?
goth version. No, he's just a Ken doll that more accurately represents what an average male would look like. Dad bod Ken. He's got a little gut work in or something. I don't know.
Again, they're just dolls. And that's what's so weird to me is Mattel feels that they are the leading person to say like this is what dolls represent.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, have you not seen other dolls? Like, there's some dolls that are really crazy looking.
Yeah.
Like, proportionally speaking, like the head's really small and the body's really big and no small arms. Like, but
Yeah,
so
well, I think it's a slippery slope because you and I both look at this
I mean,
doll
they're-
and it just looks like a doll. But what? I mean, they really run the risk of it being offensive. I mean, if they made it look, what does two downs look like, right? If they
did Barbie start because it's like a fashion thing? Isn't that the whole concept of Barbie?
probably.
So you could buy different dresses, and Barbie it always looks good in her fashion, and you're buying the clothes. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it was definitely a fashion.
Like, that
type
was the whole
deal, yeah.
point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then
I wasn't into Barbies, man, so I don't know.
Well, no, I'm me either. I had GI Joes, and
Oh yeah,
talk about proportions.
they had none.
Yeah, like I remember, you always thought the clothes were sewn onto them.
Oh yeah. And I would always pull on them. The rubber band would snap in the middle. I was like, "Oh, that's not good." And then you got like a GI Joe with no legs.
Yeah, but
I was making my own
It has
very first
representation.
prosthetic.
That's a real.
Yeah.
That's a World War II vet right there.
They should. I wonder what other kind of Barbies they could make though. Maybe like, I don't know, like Jankum Barbie or something.
No, I think they. Again, you're gonna go down this road where it's gonna be hilarious to see what they come up next. Because again, it's the Down syndrome Barbie. That's interesting. Is the psyche they think they're going in the sense of they made this doll for a specific class of person.
Sure.
So they're pointing it out.
Yeah. And then, well, think about this.
And I thought that was like the opposite of what we should be doing in society. Is
right.
pointing,
Everyone's all the same. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so it's got and.
Well, think about this. What if you're the guy, you're the uncle with the checkered past, and you're going to your niece's you're going to your niece's birthday party. And you're like, oh, I got to pick up a gift for her real quick, and you run to the Walmart, and you're not really paying attention. You pick up Down syndrome Barbie, you take it to her, and you unwrap it, and you just see her.
Yeah, you
know,
can't judge me, Susie.
Yeah.
Quit being so judgmental, Susie.
Right. I mean, and then are you the guy who's like, you bought my daughter a Down syndrome doll? So it can either go one of two ways. You're either horrible because you didn't buy the right doll, or hell, man, that's really good that you bought a doll.
Yeah, it's
with
weird.
exclusion. It's a tough one. I was really surprised by it. But again, I'm glad that if there are children with Down syndrome that like this doll, then that's great. Wonderful. I'm going to go buy 2 of them.
Why?
to help support the
You
cause.
got
No,
well,
no.
it's not going to a cause.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I wonder if like a portion of each doll
No.
sold goes to the Down Syndrome Society of America, or whatever. All right.
They're just trying to make up because that Barbie movie is going to be terrible.
Oh, it might be. On a somewhat related story, I don't know if you heard about this. A statue of a mermaid is making a lot of news. A statue
I
of a
thought you were
mermaid.
going to say waves.
Oh, dang it! I can't say it. A statue of a mermaid is making a lot of waves. There we go. It sounds cheesy though. Apparently, it has extremely large breasts and a generous bottom. And it says here it's caused a splash in Italy. Oh gosh.
Oh.
With critics saying that it is too
Here,
sexual.
I got it for the audience. to check
Yeah,
out.
the critique here is
So
it's
that's
too
the bottom.
Yeah, it's too sexual to be on public display.
Oh. Has anyone seen the statue of David?
This, yeah, I have seen
That's
it.
pretty hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then
And like
you know,
the way he holds his hand by his cheek.
and then in the Goonies, my favorite part, where they knocked it off and they had to glue it back on. They glued it on upside down. Yeah. Well, this is in a resort town of Monopoli, Portuglia, a region in Italy's far south. I probably again butchered that as well.
Well, this reminds me of the hilarity of small towns. And then it's kind of like, remember when Martin Luther King statue was released in February?
Yep.
And depending on what angle you looked at it, it did not make any sense.
No.
And it's kind of one of those things where like the local community's like, oh, we have a new statue? And you go look at it and you're like,
Well, you bring up something interesting with the Martin Luther King is, so it probably had to pass several rounds of design ideas and people sitting around in a boardroom, blah, 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 blah. And then they went out with this, and if you aren't familiar with what the statue looks like, it's basically just two sets of arms. It's supposed to look like, I guess, people embracing, but instead of actually putting bodies with them, it's just two arms, and it's massive.
Yeah.
And I forget what city it's in.
I think it was
Boston?
in Chicago.
Boston, Chicago? Okay, I can't remember. Well, the thing is, from certain angles, it looks okay, but then from other angles, it looks like a big penis.
Yeah.
And it's very much so looks like a big penis.
Well, it's interesting because
like,
the
come on,
community
people.
gets, because we've always talked about, remember during, what was it, the protest days of the statue stuff? And it's like, so this community's going to be like, hey, we don't like this big-breasted mermaid. Let's tear it down.
Well,
It looks really heavy.
it's massive, it looks like. It says it has large buttocks and soccer ball-shaped breasts. And it's a far cry from another sculpture that it's got a famous siren, which that'd be the Little Mermaid, that's very delicately rendered in bronze. And then you have this one in comparison, and she
it
does
looks-
look a little I don't know. It says she has two silicone
I mean,
breasts that would make a plastic surgeon blush.
well, not even that. To me, it looks like art.
Yeah, right, exactly. And you're not supposed to criticize art.
And we're talking about a fake thing here.
It is fake, but it certainly
Mermaids aren't real.
well depends. I don't know. I'm iffy on that.
Yeah, you have a mermaid doll?
Yeah, there you go. Mermaid bar. Oh, I'm sure they got that.
They
What am I
do,
saying?
they
Yeah,
do.
of course. It says the town were perplexed by the statue, adding, "Who knows? It might even become a tourist attraction." That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
Like,
so,
yeah, like why would you not want this in your town? First of all, Friday night, lonely guy walking by, you might get some enjoyment out of it.
We
Bring
got
some other
probably
people to your
great,
town.
great pictures. Oh, look at Jack. He's drunk again. He's on the statue.
Oh, that reminds me. So on my college campus, I went to college at Southwest Texas State University,
You would
and
molest statues?
no, I wouldn't. But
Oh,
there is a
man.
statue, a very famous statue in the quad of a horse, and it's very large, and it's kind of rearing up, and it doesn't have a rider on it. I don't think. I think it's just the horse rearing up.
That's a cool statue.
It's cool, except they made it anatomically correct, and on the back side you have
Why
a
would they do
huge
that?
set of
Why?
nuts. That's a good question, especially on a college campus. How well do you think a bunch of college kids are going to handle the fact that there's this horse here with a huge setup on the back of him, right? And so, of course, something's always dangling from it. There's always
That's
somebody taking a
hilarious.
picture holding it.
Yeah.
The big deal was to go up there and touch it.
Well, I mean, this statue in Monopoly, that's where it is. It's a cool town name. That's going to happen. You're going to get kids messing with this thing.
Absolutely are. And it says, to make it worse, this piece of artwork overlooks a children's playground.
Well, the kids will enjoy it. I love it.
Well, I bet they
talk
will.
about statues. I went to Abilene Christian University, and they had statues where the education building was. It's like little bronze children. little children statues, but they were like scattered throughout the whole.
We kind of have that here in the Woodlands too.
And it's like
weird.
at night, it's one of the creepiest things because they put the light, those little highlight lights on them.
Like the little shining
so
up lights.
you'd be walking through campus and you look over to your left and you see a child like playing with a jump rope.
Yeah, man.
And it's just like frozen looking at you. And I'm like, oh, there's a child. And then you look like there's another child. And then there's another child. And there's for some reason they're scattered all through the plants and stuff. And it's just like, what's going on here,
What do
guys?
you do when you're trying to make yourself look scary? You hold a flashlight and you put it up to your face like this to highlight, like
It
the
was
shadows
funny.
on your
I was
face.
like, I don't
and
think
then
this
that's
is
what they do.
intentional. I was like, I don't think this is intentional. It's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
But
well,
statues are great. I think we need to build more so we can tear down more.
yeah, I'm not even going to touch that.
Well, what? Why not?
No, I'm good with that. So, speaking of being in Southwest Texas, did you ever hear about the snake farm that was down there?
I think that's a song from Ray Wiley Hubbard, I think.
Snake farm?
Yeah, let me look it up
Well,
quick.
so there was a snake farm. I think it still exists along I-35 in between New Braunfels and San Marcos.
Look at that.
Well, there you go. The internet, you can find anything. And it was probably late 90s. I went and visited this thing, and man, it was in really bad shape. I know that made news a few years ago because one of the huge snakes was missing. But I mean, there's just snakes all over the place, really creepy. But in the back, they had like monkeys in cages, and the monkeys didn't look like they were particularly being cared for very well.
Oh my God, you're so sensitive about this stuff.
Man,
Have you ever been into like a little laboratory with monkeys?
no,
I have, and I've. And
do
it's,
tell,
it's
please.
nuts. Like they have the silver disc in their head, so you can have quick access to their brain.
What?
Yeah, dude. I was like, this is crazy, guys. What y'all doing in there?
How did you find yourself there?
I don't want to see one thing that y'all learn through our friendship, Andrew, is when someone offers something, I'm usually like, yeah, I'll do it. What are we doing? I'll go first.
I've noticed that about you.
I'll go first. Yeah, I'll go. Let's where are we going here? Okay, cool. This room's really dark. Got any light in here? No, it's the monkeys are asleep. Oh, there's monkeys in here. That's cool. What are you doing here?
I just wonder how you find yourself in these positions.
Well,
man. This is crazy.
That specific one was through a friend of a relative, and
Hey, you want to go and visit the insane asylum today?
it was one of those things where
Here, the monkeys are on display.
you know how they put those ads out there. It's like, hey, do this test and you get some money.
Oh, yes.
So
That's how you end up with 15 kids running around.
well, it's something. One of my buddy was doing a cognitive test with like really actually kind of cool, like a video game almost. So you had like push these buttons. And he's like, hey, can you come up here? We need some test subjects. And, I know you like games, so you can come over and play this game for like an hour. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm playing the game, did the test, like 6 tests or whatever. And then as I was leaving, he goes, hey, do you want to meet some other people? I'm like, sure. And so I started meeting all these doctors and neuroscience people. And I was like, so what do you guys do? And it's like, oh, we're doing this thing where you're simulating the brain. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. How do you do that? He's like, oh, I'll show you. Come on up here. And then all of a sudden, there's a monkey in front of me. And he's like, see, this is where the part of the brain, he's telling me all about the brain. And
Man,
he's being very nice to the monkey, which is, I go, that's kind of weird, man. Like, he's feeding them, and it's like, hey, what's up, Charlie? Like that kind of stuff. But
I have seen videos of where they'll have like the game memory on a screen, and it'll flash up a series
they
of
do it,
numbers,
like,
and those monkeys will go pop, 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 pop,
They
pop, pop,
legit
and put
had-
it back in order, the same order it flashed
he
on the
had
screen.
a plate on his head that looked like a cylinder. And all he had to do was just move it, and then quick access. Like, boom.
Looked like the Doc from Back to the Future.
It was nuts. It was more like Dr. Monroe, the Island of Dr.
Island
Monroe.
of Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I was like, this is kind of weird, but I guess you got to do it to make sure.
Did they stick the plate on your head?
No, this is installed.
Oh, it was like
So they
surgically implanted
they
on their
always-
head. Oh man.
So I mean,
I think you're right. I guess so they could study any thought at any moment. Or that way, it's not like they have to.
because they were shooting little electric things. Ding.
But being nice to him by feeding him cookies and stuff, right?
But that's real, guys. I will let you know that's a real thing. You see those in movies, like, oh, they don't treat animals. Like, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy. Well, no, this one I saw, the conditions were really bad. They didn't have any metal plates in their head, but the monkeys were poking at various parts of their bodies and throwing whatever may have come
poo-poo.
from it. Yeah, it wasn't.
Jankum.
Yeah, it was jankum, and there was also some front stuff that was happening. It was really disturbing. The reason I bring it up is really, really disturbing, and I think that place was shut down, probably due to health officials or something.
animals
animal
are
rights.
disgusting.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then I think it shut down and it reopened. And I actually remember seeing them on an episode of like Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. Came in there and they mentioned that they had restored it and it looked a lot better. But I bring that up because this story caught my eye a few weeks ago of what could go wrong? Real life snakes on a plane. Did you ever see that movie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Really, really good. I think, right?
One of the best.
Yeah, it says I didn't actually see it. I think I saw parts of it. But of all the things to go wrong midair in the cockpit of a plane, finding a venomous snake under the pilot's seat must surely be one of the worst scenarios. I cannot imagine this.
Well, I think finding a snake in any scenario is pretty bad.
Yeah, no kidding. But then when you're confined in the air and you happen to be, the pilot of the plane. So it says this guy said he felt a little cold sensation underneath his shirt where his hip is situated. Kind of like the love handle area is what he's saying. When he looked down, the pilot was surprised to see a highly venomous Cape Cobra under his seat.
What on earth?
Yeah, that's certainly not something you want your pilot to be experiencing when he's trying to keep the plane safe. Erasmus felt the slithering stowaway as he was piloting a private flight from South Africa's Western Cape to the northwestern town.
That sounds typical of South Africa.
Right, yeah. I guess the chances are probably a little higher there. But man, I couldn't imagine all of a sudden feeling something like that, and then to know that you're like in control of the plane or the bus or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder how he knew immediately that it was a venomous snake.
Venomous. I mean, if he's from South Africa, but he knows his snakes.
I guess so. He said he informed the passengers of what was going on. That's another thing I was going to say. What do you do if you're the pilot? Do you keep this a secret, or do you be like, "Hey guys, check this out"? Going to freak everybody up, freak everybody out at 30,000 feet. He said, but everybody remained calm. I'm thinking, yeah, right. That's what you're telling the story. People probably freaking out.
I wonder how the snake got on there.
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Because now I'm just imagining myself being stuck like 30,000 feet. Or was it 3,000? Wherever high planes go.
A little more than 3,000. 35.
I know we had
40.
our pilot friend here, and he taught me all about how airplanes are real. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be like, we're stuck up here, guys. We're probably going to die. Just because of this little snake.
Oh, man. Do you want to cover this next story before the break? We got a few minutes, I think. This was something that we brought up a few weeks ago. You sort of on the whim of the Pope kissing the ring.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a little bit more research on this because the video is absolutely hilarious. So I don't know if you want to show this
I'm gonna pull it up
to the audiences on Facebook and YouTube. Sorry for those of you who are on the regular podcasting
they're
platform.
trying to kiss his ring. I saw this and I told you about it. It's almost like they're playing a game. Yeah. She's like, going down, don't kiss it. Don't kiss it. Like, go down.
Nope.
Oh. Too slow. Don't do it.
Well, and I know you said something about it was because he doesn't like the traditions and blah, 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 blah. But I when I looked this up, it was not clear as to the exact reasoning why. And it does seem slightly, man, that guy went in for it.
Yeah.
It does seem slightly controversial because the Vatican had some spokesmen that just said, no, this is specifically for just not passing germs. This was strictly, not necessarily COVID, but just, we don't want people to be spreading germs. But it also led to people saying, he hasn't been the most up to date on some of the traditions of the past, and it's led to this sort of controversy because he has, since this video, allowed people to kiss it. But if there's a long line of people, he'll tend to start off with the kissing, and then he starts the game again at some point. And they said, well, that's for expediency because it would take too long for everybody to kiss. And I'm like, I don't think it takes any longer.
Well, the way I look at it is if the procedure is to kiss the ring of the Pope, everyone in that line is still going to try to kiss the ring of the Pope.
That one guy went in for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You watch, there's more videos of it where it's just, it got to that point where that literally is like a Secret Service agent going in, like protecting the hand. He's like, they go in and try to kiss that hand, and that guy's like, nope. And it like one after another. And I'm like, yeah, see, even if you know this is going to happen, like, you're not speeding anything up.
No, you're not. That's what I'm saying. It's not any faster. So the excuse of it being for expediency, I think, is kind of BS.
What I read was this Pope doesn't believe in the materialistic parts of the church.
Right.
So he thinks that kissing the ring makes it like the Pope isn't more than you.
Yeah.
But in Catholicism, typically the Pope is more than you. But in his mind, he's like, no, we're all equal. Like, you don't need to kiss my ring.
He did say, or the article I read did say that for elderly people, he does tend to allow you to kiss.
Because it's their dream to meet the. You know how crazy people are about the Pope?
Yeah.
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 So I mean, I get it. I mean, at least it's not the Dalai Lama. Let me suck that tongue. Can you imagine that being normal? Like, you gotta suck his tongue every time.
You gotta normalize it, man. You gotta normalize this stuff somehow. Speaking of normalizing, I saw a picture of the Pope a few weeks ago that I thought was amazing, and this was a picture of the Pope wearing a white puffer jacket that just looked amazing. I don't know if you've seen this picture or not.
All right.
But sadly, as much as I wanted it to be real,
Hey, are you seeing this fanny pack?
what? Oh no, it's a gut.
It's a gut fanny pack ad. I put it up for our audience on YouTube,
Why
Facebook.
in the heck would you want a gut fanny
I'm
pack?
getting some great ads these days.
Yeah.
I'm getting awesome. If you look over to the left, got some fashion, and then I got weird
You got
cat signs.
The gut pack.
And then the gut pack, man. I like the gut pack.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But look at
So this picture I saw immediately, I thought it was real. And I thought, man, this is awesome. Look at the Pope in this puffer jacket because he looks like something that I don't know a rapper or something would wear. And then, as it turns out, it's a fake and it's AI generated. And I thought, well, dang it, I kind of fell for it, and I wanted it to be true. So the point of this whole article, though, was saying that there's some telltale signs to look for when you're spotting AI. And I thought, it's kind of interesting considering how much AI is going to be dominating our future and all this stuff's going to be fake. You're not going to know what's real and what's not. One of the things to look for is what they call a glasses lens, where the outline of the coat, in this case, the puffer coat, seems to transition into its own shadow, which I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I think they're trying to explain like that deep line. It's kind of a stark line in between where that image starts and the background starts as well. That's one thing to look for. Another one I found interesting is AI doesn't really understand hands. So it looks at pictures of hands in various positions and it knows, okay, this is what a hand is supposed to look like, but it doesn't really know that it's a part of our body. So a lot of times hands will be jacked up. It'll be like missing a finger or something because in certain positions it may look like you only have 9 or 8 fingers. So it can't grasp the concept that humans have 10 fingers and they use this to grasp things. It's just an image thing. So they said look for hands being jacked up.
Yeah.
And then also eyes. It doesn't also know that eyes are necessarily supposed to go in the same direction. So sometimes AI will generate something with a couple of eyes moving off to the side like that. So I thought, okay, that's my public service announcement because I did kind of fall for this picture, hoping that it was real, but it is not.
I like the idea of the news freaking out about fake images because how quickly you can make them.
Yeah, and AI's generating.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of funny. You can go to any hot topic today. Like, say, for example, Don Lemon. Is it Lemon or Lemon?
Don Lemon.
Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson got fired from their jobs.
Like the same day.
On the same day. So it's like, if I was a troublemaker, AI generate both of them on like some show, and like, oh, they joined Twitter. Twitter now has the news channel or whatever.
Really good idea. It'd be like a Saturday Night Live bit where one gives his side and the other gives. Man, they should really do that.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, you can make these stories, and for 12 hours, like, everyone's freaking out, and then it's like, oh, this is fake. Because it's kind of like, I think I told you about the Donald Trump ones, where the AI generated arresting him. Yeah. So it's like,
those looked fake too, but they were funny.
I'm talking about the initial like hours of creating them and spreading them. Like people are going to freak.
Oh yeah, and the initial.
That's and you can really go crazy with it and you can probably have some really good fun with it.
Yeah.
But also you can really like ruin people's careers because
no doubt.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I know. All right, I think it's a good time to take a break. When we come back, we've got this crazy story about the New York Fire Department versus the New York Police Department and some other crazy things going on. We'll be back.
Okay, I know we're on a break, but
we were on a break.
I know we're on a break, but I'm getting tired of all these articles Andrew keeps sending me.
They're great, and you know it.
It's all trash.
Kind of the point.
But it got me thinking, Andrew. Mm-hmm. You, the listener, can submit articles and ideas and topics.
Yeah, they can.
Audience of One Show at gmail.com.
That's correct.
Or Facebook, look up Audience of One Show with Andrew and Dick.
Otherwise, you're subject to stories about kids sleeping outside that apparently Dick cannot stand.
No. I'm tired of this fake news, and I know the cancer that is growing within Audience of One is Andrew and his terrible articles. So we need stories.
Come on, man. It's not that bad.
We need stories. So send us your ideas at audienceofoneshow at gmail.com. And Facebook, Audience of One with Andrew and Dick.
That's us.
All right. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. And hopefully we have better topics on the next episode.
And if we don't and they're still terrible, I suppose it's my fault.
Yes.
All right. We are back to the AOO show. Audience of One. Maybe we start calling it AOO show. It sounds pretty cool. AOO show. Of course, then we have to design new logos and get all new URLs and everything. That sounds like a lot of work. I'm going to start calling it AOO show.
AO.
Okay. You down with that AOO show? I just thought of it right now.
Audience of One.
Oh, yeah. Audience of One. And we're back. So during the break, we were having a conversation, and you apparently were aware of this annual hockey game that goes on between the fire department of New York and the police department of New York. I was not aware of this thing. And you said it goes on every year and it's a big charity event.
Yeah, they do it. I want to say they do it at Madison Square Garden. Like it's a legit event.
Right. And I think, okay, that's cool. You can have a friendly, whatever the sporting event, soccer, football, whatever, hockey in this case, between two city entities. But what I didn't know is this thing has gotten completely out of control at times. Back in 2014, there was an all-out brawl between both sides, between fire and police. And I'm sure there is some sort of animosity between those two groups, right? I'm sure the police officers hate the fire department because the fire department are the good guys, and the police officers are probably seen as the bad guys who enforce the law, I'm sure, right? So I'm sure you have
especially today.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's got to be tough to be a police officer.
If you're a firefighter, I'd be like, all cops are bastards. ACAB. Is that what it is? I forget what the people were yelling during the riot things.
Well, I guess this game just happened again this year.
Yeah.
And two officers, I guess an officer and a fire department. Are they called officers as well? I'm showing my ignorance. All right. Well, they faced off in a fight, and it was brutal, man. You actually had one of the guys just get knocked completely out. And I guess that's the fireman there in the red, and the police is there in the green. And, you're like, okay, this is fine. But what I don't understand, he gets a lick in here real early. What I don't understand, though, is like this is a city sanction. Oh, down he goes. I mean, it knocked him out. It's a city sanctioned event, and they just let this go on. I guess because it sells tickets and these guys agree to do it.
Well, I mean, first off, have you ever watched hockey?
I've
so
watched
people
hockey.
fight all the time.
Right, but I've also seen like
even in the beer leagues, like the Sunday leagues, people still fight.
Yeah, I can see that, but I've also seen like friendly hockey games too, where they're done for charity events. You see them on like TV where you have the legends come out, and they're not duking it out, man. They're playing a hockey game.
Well, one thing you have to remember, like these guys play hockey recreationally, so they're pretty competitive. It isn't like a celebrity all-star game where we don't expect Justin Bieber to be able to dunk. Like we know what we're watching.
It'd be awesome if he could, though.
Well, I mean, if you see, but like this thing is actually competitive because all these guys play regularly for fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're going to crush them. We're the better team.
Yeah, I guess they look forward to it every year. It says it's been going on since 1974.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I didn't think about that. These are not just firefighters and police officers who go, oh, yeah, I'll put on some skates this week for the first time. These guys, you probably play they're already hockey players.
Yeah.
And they know we don't like these guys, and there's a good chance that if something happens during the game, we're throwing down. It's brutal. Dude, that guy got knocked out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it happens all the time, and unlucky for that guy, like he got a good hit in and
early on. So
he just went down. But that's hockey though. So
you ever played hockey?
Yeah, I used to play a lot actually.
Like on ice or rollerblades?
Yeah.
Really? Where at? Here? In Texas?
The Aerodrome. They're in Spring or Sugarland. And Sugarland, right when the Arrows opened up, they opened up like 3 aerodromes, I want to say. And my neighbor was from Canada, and he's a huge hockey like hockey
Right.
person. Like
They all are.
he traveled and he goes up to camps in Canada, and so we would play roller hockey.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "You should play with us," and I was like, "Oh, okay," because he's like, "You're pretty good." And then mom and dad were like, came over to my house like, "Hey, Richard needs to sign up for this stuff." So yeah, I played hockey for like 3 years.
Did you ever have to throw down?
No, I think like the last.
It's not real hockey then, bro. Come on, you got to throw
Well,
down.
it's
You ever
different.
been to a hockey game?
It's different because we were talking about like 10-year-olds. So
I mean, it's part of the game.
So,
I do think that it is odd how that is, quote, part of the game. And if you're teaching 10-year-olds to play, there you go. Got to grab them by the jersey, pull it down.
well, the excuse is the reason they have it is to prevent further injuries. Because if the enforcer on our team comes over and beats the crap out of this guy, it's like, hey, don't mess with our team because I'm going to come and beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So people won't like actually try to injure.
Yeah, it's the
other
enforcer,
players.
basically. Yeah.
So, but that's what they say.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I remember reading a thing about the NHL. Some guys like, yeah, we got to get the fighting out of hockey because they don't want to see the general public sees it as barbarianism. I'm like, what's part of the game? Like, let it happen. Because they were talking about they didn't want to broadcast it. So if a fight broke out, they just go to a commercial.
They go to a
right?
commercial?
Yeah. And I was like,
Well, what happens if one of these guys gets hit like this and something really unfortunately goes
happened.
bad and like he either goes brain
not even
dead
that.
or,
Like,
or
what was
dies
it?
or something?
I think it was like 3 weeks
That's
ago.
gotta end the game right
well,
there,
no, this
man.
dude got his face cut open from falling down.
Like in an NHL game
Yeah.
or in this.
And-
Yeah, well, NHL, that's, I mean, you
But I mean, like,
that's to be expected. But I'm talking about one of these charity games like this. If someone gets seriously hurt, which can happen, you punch somebody in the face. You never know if it's lights out. I'm surprised it still goes on. That's what I'm saying.
well, these are tough guys. Remember that they're hockey players.
Yeah.
They're tough.
Well, speaking of people beating up each other, have you been following the story of Bam Margera? This is nuts.
Like his entire life story?
No, just the recent one. If those of you don't know who Bam Margera is, he made
It's weird that we talk about this guy.
right. I mean, the fact that he's still around. I mean, I guess that's impressive in and of itself. But he was of Jackass fame. The show Jackass, it was an MTV show back in the
And then he had his own show.
90s and early 2000s.
I think he had his own show too. Like with his parents and his
hanging with Bam or at Bam's house
or
or
something
something
like that, yeah.
Because his house always seemed to be like the hangout spot, if I can remember. And they were always pulling tricks on his dad, his poor dad. I seem to remember that. I wasn't a Jackass fan. Did you like
Oh
Jackass?
yeah, I loved it.
I knew you would.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was always a little uncomfortable with it. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I was
I mean-
always kind of cringy and this and that. But I mean, I watched it some.
Well, some of the gags are really good,
Yeah.
and then some of them are like,
You like
you're
the-
just an idiot.
You like the Hot Wheel up the butt?
that was pretty funny.
I do remember that. That was in the movie, I think,
Yeah, that
right?
was- that was
And then they got
pretty
the
funny.
X-ray, and then you can see the little car just parked
Yeah.
perfectly. But you know
He's
that
like,
can go
"You have
wrong
a
because
car.
if that goes
Toy
in,
car."
as you have told me before, boy, this is going to sound strange. If something goes too far up your rear,
It keeps going.
It keeps going. Like
Yeah,
your
your
stomach
body-
starts to act like a vacuum, and it'll
Yeah.
suck it in, and then you're in trouble, and you have to have it surgically removed from your stomach.
But yeah, I mean, what's strange to me is the fascination with this
Quite a
guy.
deviation we just had there.
Because I know he's had a history of,
Drugs.
well,
big
just
time.
not even drugs. I'm not talking bad about
okay.
drugs. I'm talking about like, he just goes insane, and he gets arrested.
Yeah.
Probably causes a lot of problems, but it's like, why
Which
are
is
we,
good for the show Jackass, if you think about it.
But that show was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So it's like, he's not on the show anymore. So
No, and when they had this most recent movie, I think he was kicked off, right?
Yeah.
They were going to make it, and he couldn't pass a drug test. He wasn't clean, and so they kicked him off. How do you get kicked off of a show Jackass? You know you got to be really crazy to get kicked off Jackass.
well, most of those guys are probably recovering alcoholics, so they don't want to be around that.
Yeah,
So
is
they're
it-
like, hey, Bam.
What's the guy, the main character's name? Johnny Knoxville?
Yeah.
Same thing, right? Isn't he like a big boozer or was?
Well, I know when the first movie came out, you could tell because there's booze everywhere in every shot.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
then if you start noticing, like the newer ones, like no, they don't have any alcohol on the set. They do not.
Yeah. I think they kind of had to try and get clean. Well, he made news this week because he went into his brother's home and beat the crap out of him.
Okay.
Started
was he
punching.
a firefighter?
You're right. Yeah, exactly. Well, the two stories are related, right? So he came in and beat the tar out of his brother and apparently left like some sort of note that just was signed Bam. I guess that was very threatening. And of course, his brother calls the cops on him. But what's funny about it is Bam runs off into the woods before the cops get there, and they couldn't find him. right? So
I believe it.
he was able to escape the police. But it got crazier and crazier because throughout the week you kept hearing all these stories like, still can't find him. And then he pops up middle of the week. And I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently he was in the car with his girlfriend and her daughter, and they were fearing for their safety because they don't know what this guy's capable of. And then finally he has now turned himself in. But it was crazy to hear about this guy basically running from the law for what seemed like the better part of a week. Yeah, it's nuts.
I don't think they were really searching for him.
Well, I mean, when you have
It wasn't like a police chase.
you can picture like OJ going down the road.
Yeah, it's something like that. I mean, he just punched a dude.
Well, what I didn't know was that he nearly died in December. All this has kind of come out because, again, I'm not following Bam Margera, but he apparently caught a really bad case of COVID in, I think it was December of just this last year, or as he says, a gnarly case, and it sent him into seizures. And he had several of them, and one of them so severe that he bit his tongue nearly off. And as he says, he was drinking the blood because his mouth was full of it and ended up giving him pneumonia. I don't know how much truth there is to that.
Okay.
But yeah, Bam Margera now I guess is he in custody, or they probably posted bond and he's out or something, right?
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't really care either outside the fact that it made for a pretty interesting story. It's like, where's Bam today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, who gives a... No, Jerry Springer died. Did you hear about Jerry Springer dying? Yeah, man. Were you a Jerry Springer fan? Did you watch that show?
Some of it was pretty entertaining, but it's also one of those shows that is staged, so it's kind of like why it's kind of like watching wrestling. I never really got into wrestling because I always thought every time I was like, this is fake.
Yeah, I didn't.
And
I didn't get into it, but it seemed like you couldn't avoid it at certain parts in time.
Oh, it's Jerry Springer for sure, because they would play it like at 3:00 in the afternoon.
It was on all the time. I never really tuned in for it, but it seemed like it was always on the TV.
It's kind of like one of those fads. Like once it got popular, there's 1,000 of those shows.
Right.
So you had
A lot
like
of
Maury,
copycats.
you had Ricky Lake. Remember Ricky Lake?
Yeah.
And because she used to be like an actress, and then she had that show, and then
First sign that your career is not going according to plan.
Yeah, and then Jerry Springer though took it up to the next level.
He did. Some of the shows were okay, and some of them did seem really, really scripted, and the acting was really, really bad. And they kind of admitted it. It's like you could submit your story, and if it was believable enough, they were going to let him on. So yeah, I never really specifically tuned in to watch it, but as a young college student, 20-something in the 90s, that show was just kind of always on.
Yeah,
it was always in the background.
My favorite is when they introduced that graphic at the bottom just to clue you in on the chaos. It's like, this is what today's show is, and like, oh, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Where it's like the info bar at the bottom to like today's episode. Who's the daddy? And like,
it was always who's the daddy.
But I'm just saying, it was always funny. Where like, whoever wrote those had a great time writing those. Like, how do I explain to people that this girl slept with like her dad?
There's always paternity suits.
Yeah, it's like, but how do we make it where we inform the audience who are just kind of channel surfing? And it's like, yeah, we got to make sure they know what's going on.
I do remember this one that made a lot of news back in the 90s where you had a long-distance romance, and one of them, I think, was a boy pretending to be a girl, and the other guy didn't know. And so you had... the Jerry Springer show was going to be his opportunity to reveal to his long distance love interest that he was in fact a boy. And I remember this made news because they had one that they brought out, and they had one they brought out, and then they bring them out together. And he says, "Hey, I got to tell you something. I'm actually a man." And of course, everybody freaks out. And the boy in the relationship says, "Well, I'll try anything once," and then made out with her.
Well, yeah, like,
and of course, everybody erupts into Jerry.
Yeah, I looked it up. So it's like
show is crazy, man.
You slept with my stripper sister. I slept with 250 men in 10 hours. I married a horse.
Oh, these are the names of the episodes?
Well, that's what the title card is at the bottom. And it's just like some of them, I mean, they're ridiculous. It's like, married to your dad, but I want you.
Yeah. I think, it's things you can identify with.
I mean, but
I think the show probably started off fairly like truthful. You just got some crazy stories, but then as it got popular, they had to generate these stories to keep it going. There's no way all this stuff is possibly true.
Because Jerry Springer, I forget what he did before the show. Like he was legit something else. Like he was.
Yes, so he was the mayor of Cincinnati at one point for a short period, like maybe mayor pro tem or something for a short period of time. Yeah, he was in politics to a degree.
Because there was an element to that show where they just kind of gave in. Like, the audience wants this, so let's just give in. But then you had the other guys like Maury.
It kind of became a caricature of itself, essentially. Yeah.
And then like the other shows, like, no, we're not those shows. We got to be respectful.
Right.
And
yeah.
I think there was one. I don't know if it was Jerry Springer, but she was afraid of like pickled eggs or something like that.
There's such a thing as pickled eggs.
You never seen pickled eggs at like bars and stuff? It's like
I don't think so.
Pickled eggs. Yeah, you need to get out more.
I do.
Jenkum style. No, so like you were sitting there watching it going, there's no way a person's afraid of like a jar of pickled something.
Yeah.
And they bring it out and the person like flips and
well, when you ride that edge of what's crazy and what's outlandish, you're always going to be pushing the envelope, and so you've got to keep making it crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier, and it gets to a certain point where it's no longer like believable.
Yeah, here it is. I found it was on Maury. So
Maury. Oh, yeah. No one watched Maury.
She's afraid of pickles.
What I didn't know, and I learned during this whole thing, was the fact that his show was at one time the most popular show on television. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More so than like Oprah, garnering 30 million viewers a week. That's crazy when you think about today's standards of how decentralized and segmented media is. A couple of million is a lot. Can you imagine 30 million every week tuning into that show? We should have known then that show was that popular where we were going to be at today. Just saying. We were on a downward turn, man.
It was entertaining.
It was to a degree. But yeah, R.I.P. Jerry Springer. I think he had pancreatic cancer.
He went.
And he got sick. I don't think he actually died of the pancreatic cancer as much as his body was already fairly weak, and then he caught some sort of sickness and passed away. Are you showing this video, by the way?
Not to the audience. I wanted it to distract you.
I look up. See this new setup we've had for a few weeks now. I can see your screen, and so I don't know what's being played and what's not.
She's running away from the pickles, man.
This is ridiculous. Maury Povich going Springer style.
Yeah, I like it.
Anyways, staying on this theme of famous people, were you aware that Woody Harrelson, and I'm assuming that most people listening to this know who Woody Harrelson is, that his dad was like a hitman? I
mean, I've heard the stories of like he was. I think he got arrested.
Oh yes, he spent time in prison for it. So he was first convicted in 1968 of the assassination of a grain dealer, and which he was just paid. Remember, we had this conversation. How much would it cost to off somebody? He was paid $2,000. I guess in 1968, I don't know what the equivalent of that would be. Maybe $28,000. I don't know. And he was released in 5 years for, quote, good behavior. Okay. But then in 1979, a drug smuggler coughed up a lot more money for him to carry out the first murder of a sitting U.S. federal judge. This guy's name was John H. Wood, and he was known as Maximum John for severe sentencing during drug trafficking. So, of course, this drug smuggler's like, we got to get rid of this judge because this guy is putting everybody away in my line of business. So he paid him $250,000, which is the equivalent of over $1.2 million today, to make sure that the judge was killed. Okay. Well, in 1980, Charles was high on cocaine when he engaged in a 6-hour standoff. Charles is his dad's name, by the way. In a 6-hour standoff with police over that killing. So he kills the judge, police find him, and he's in a long standoff with police. And it was at that time that he made this really weird statement that he was also involved in JFK's murder.
I think we all were.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, can't disprove it, I suppose. Well, I mean, we weren't around, but
I wasn't born.
Yeah, I wasn't born. There is that one little caveat. So he throws that out in 1980, and of course, with everything surrounding JFK and the controversy and blah blah blah, it got a lot of people's attention. What? So during after the hours of the shooting, there was some video that came out, the actual JFK shooting. There was a video of these three kind of homeless-looking
Talk about
men.
a video of someone getting knocked out.
That's the ultimate knockout video. Hello. God, you're such a shock jock, man. There was this video that came out, or maybe it was a still photo, I don't remember, of police leading what appeared to be three homeless men away from the scene of the crime just hours after it happened. And nobody really knew who it was.
Yeah.
So in 1980, when he says, Charles...
he's one of them?
People were like, wait a minute. I wonder if he's one of these three homeless guys. And so the conspiracy started that perhaps Woody Harrelson's dad was somehow involved in the killing of JFK, and he may have been one of those three homeless guys. Well, I wasn't aware of all this. It's kind of fascinating, really. Well, years later, he comes out and says, no, I just made all that up. He said, that'll just basically tell you where my mind was at in 1980, willing to take money for killing people. I was high on cocaine, blah, 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 blah. So he'll say anything, but it led people to go on this wild goose chase as to whether or not his dad had anything to do with JFK.
I was listening to Oliver Stone. You know how he made the movie JFK?
Yes, like the mid-'90s, early '90s.
And he was talking about conspiracy theories, and he found it fascinating how conspiracy theories like really grow and change, because he made a point of the script he wrote or was part of doing JFK is like that was one of the most far-fetched conspiracy theories. Like no one really believed like in that story that he told in the movie. Mm-hmm. And because the movie's really good. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Oh yeah, it's
really
been a
good.
long time.
But he made it. He's like, yeah, at that time when we're writing, like that
back
was
and to the left, back and to the left.
But he was basically saying like no one really believed that story.
Mm-hmm.
But after the movie's success, that became the prominent JFK theory.
Wow.
Like conspiracy theory, and he's like, yeah. So and that's where he's like, you never know, like, because he said he's fascinated with conspiracy theories, but it's also one of those things where it's like, at one point you don't really care for the truth because it's just
the conspiracies are more interesting than the truth. So let's just go after more conspiracies. Yeah, we're definitely not going to go down the JFK rabbit hole. My God, I did have a teacher in elementary school. He was really awesome. He's my history teacher. Can't remember his name, but he was really into the JFK thing. That was right around the time the movie came out, and so it was a big hype around it, and boy, he talked about it all the time.
Cool deal. Do you think our government does stuff like that today? Because everyone thinks the government killed JFK, like some form of the government. It wasn't just like a lone guy.
I mean, it wouldn't. I wouldn't put it past them, but I don't know.
Think that like with technology today, you think it's like they're so shadow government to the point where like they literally
can operate not
literally in the shadows.
In the shadows.
So you'll never
really know. You won't be able to connect it to the government.
Yeah.
Because like before, if you were going to hire a hitman, you would have to find the government. Here you go, and there's a paper document.
Yeah.
But now everything's
not even that. It's
you got cryptocurrency you could pay people with. You never be able to track it. Things are online.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I guess
so.
It's interesting to think about, but yeah, it could probably go on more than what.
Well, because if you involve humans, there's always going to be like mistakes. But with today, it's like, no, they're not going to write a personal message because they're obsessed with that person, and you find like the breadcrumbs to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know, because AI is probably going to be the one making all the decisions here pretty soon.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I like to believe that his dad had something to do with it, even though he since admitted that he didn't, because it's more fun. Again, who cares about the truth? So we've got a few minutes left here on the show. I wanted to change gears and have something that's a little more upbeat. No more sexy mermaids, no more murder talk. But I wanted to end the show on a couple of funny, kind of upbeat stories. So, were you into Legos as a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I was obsessed, man. I had probably a table about the size of this table in front of me. So what is this? Maybe 3.5, 4 foot wide, 8 foot long. Basically like one of those pop-up tables. I had in my house, and I had an entire Lego town set up with like the little fire department, little police department. Oh, they would get fight apparently. Didn't know that. And they had the airport. I even had the plane hanging from the ceiling and kind of banked just perfect. I mean, I had the whole town built. It was pretty cool. So I saw this story about this V8 Lego engine that can rev up to 4,300 RPMs. And it's really, really cool. And of course, it has a couple of 3D printed parts. So it's not 100% Lego, But what I found amazing, and I've had you pull up the video for sound, is how this little engine sounds.
All right,
And it is
pull
really, really impressive.
You ready?
Yeah. Let me see. So I guess that's how he starts it with that wheel there. There's no lubrication in it either, which I find pretty fascinating. And he's going to rev it up. Wow, man. That sounds better than my car. That's a little Lego engine. So it says the creator mentions the crankcase is a 3D printed part. Wow. That sounds like some of the little Hondas that I see running around town. That's pretty nuts. So it says the crankshaft is of a 3D printed part and not of its own design, and the crankshaft and valves are custom too, but everything else is Lego. And again, this has no lubrication, so there's no oil or anything like this. It's running through up to 4,300 RPM, which I think is pretty impressive that Lego engine block can do that without, exploding or coming apart. Maybe he's using the Craggle in there to keep it together.
Yeah, the new Lego stuff's pretty impressive.
It is crazy. My daughter...
I don't know what they call it now. I think it's called like Lego Mechanics or Lego Mines.
Yeah, Jankum Lego. I don't remember. They've got all kinds of stuff. But I have put together a few pieces with my daughter here somewhat recently, and some of the pieces that they have are not like the pieces I used to have as a kid. They were basically just blocks. These ones are uniquely shaped specifically for this particular set so that you can make this design look pretty realistic. But yeah, man, I thought that thing sounded awesome. I didn't think you could do that with a Lego engine. You ever built anything that cool?
No.
Or anything?
No.
Were you the guy that just built the stuff out of the box and followed the instructions, or were you one? Yeah, I kind of was too.
Well, I was more of, I like building, it's more of the building part was my favorite part. Like the complex, I like the big stuff, and it's like, when you get the Millennium Falcon, you're like freaking out, because it's like, this is going to be 10 hours of building.
Yeah.
But no, I collected the sets. I like the sets, and like the towns, and I liked having all that kind of stuff, and then when you had it all, it was like, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mostly stuck to the instructions because I wanted it to look like it did on the box or whatever. Yeah. But I did have a box of like overflow pieces that I would use to create my own stuff, and I was always a little disappointed that it never would turn out as good as the stuff that had Lego engineers design, shocker or whatever. But I still have mine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, not only is it crazy, I have them separated still by building, and I have the instructions. And about 6 years ago, I rebuilt it. And these are Legos from the 80s, right? Yeah. So it's crazy. And they, for the most part, I don't have any missing pieces. There's just a few here and there that are missing. But some of the white pieces have yellowed over time, so because they're getting old. And then, so it kind of it adds to the patinka of the building, I guess.
Have you seen the adult Legos they make today?
Oh, are we talking kink stuff here? Or what are you talking about?
No. It's like art.
Oh. Yeah, well, like some of them are like the architecture, like it's got like the Eiffel Tower. Those look awesome. I wouldn't mind getting a set like that.
Yeah,
putting that together. Maybe we should have one, put it here, and keep it in the studio.
Well, the thing about Legos is they're really expensive. So
they're extremely expensive.
Yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the bigger sets, and they were expensive back when I was a kid. I mean, in the 80s, I remember easily seeing someone for $100, $125, which now is $300 or $400.
Basically, I like with the sets, it take me like 4 years to get the whole set. Like for Christmases and birthdays, and it's like
you didn't. Legos weren't those things where you just happen to be walking to the grocery store and go, "Hey, Mom, can I get some Legos?" She goes, "Sure." It had to have been like Christmas. Santa had to produce some Legos, or there had to have been a birthday party because, you're right, they're really expensive. But did you do like the city, or did you do? Because I remember when I was a kid, there was like three basic concepts. There was the space, there was the
space city, and then they had like themes.
Castle. So you had the castle one. I was totally into city. That's all I liked. I did not like the space one, but I did like some of the castle ones were pretty cool. So my cousin Garrett, I've mentioned him on the show before. He had a little bit more of the castle models or sets, and I did find some of those pretty cool because they were different than the ones I had. Again, didn't really care for space, but man, the city was where it was at, and I'd build up these trucks, big jacked up tires and stuff. It's cool.
I'm looking it up right now. I had the Aquanuts.
I'm sorry, Aquanut? That sounds like a condition you need to go see the doctor for.
Well, here, I'll show you. I had this one. like this stuff.
Whoa, that just said $640. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, were you actually supposed to put them underwater though?
No, but it's just like it had they came with this plastic base, and you had these like
It'd be cooler if it did go underwater. I know they make boats and stuff. I think that you could put in water, but
yeah, I think that was like the last one I got, and that took me like 2 years to, finagle my way in. Mom, please, Mom, please.
Well, that one said $600. I imagine at the time it wasn't that much, but that particular one
No.
now, if it's like the original stuff, I bet you my Legos have some value to them. I mean, like I said, I still have the instructions and everything, but we're going to end with this story. This is kind of stupid, but I thought it was interesting. Have you heard of the city Kyle, Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm familiar with Kyle because it's near San Marcos in central Texas, and I would drive through it quite a bit. And I think I may have actually had some friends that lived in Kyle, Texas. But I saw this in the news. Kyle is attempting to break the Guinness World Record for the largest same-name gathering.
Okay.
So I was thinking, what's the names here? Is it going to be a bunch of dicks? Is the meeting of the dicks? No, this is for people who are named Kyle, which is kind of funny. And I thought it was kind of neat for the city to do in terms of generating attention for their city. So on this Sunday, May 21st, if your name is Kyle, you may want to head to the city of Kyle. At 4 p.m. on that day, they're going to try to attempt to break the current same name record that is held that was in 2017. I guess there was 2,325 participants who were named Ivan. So I guess it's kind of hard to get a bunch of, because that number seems really low. I was thinking it was going to be something like 15,000. There's 2,325 participants named Ivan. That was in Bosnia. I guess it's hard to get people the same name together. Especially if you're trying to bring him to Kyle. There's not much else going on.
Well, I mean, that'd be kind of a fun trip. I mean, let's go check out Kyle. Like, say you live in Boston or something. It's like, let's go to this small town. And
well, I'm curious to know whether or not they're going to break it. I wonder if Vegas is taking odds whether or not they're going to break it.
No, there's going to be some BS where it's like, oh, he didn't spell his name with a Y.
Oh, no, yeah. But Kyle's pretty. Is there only one way to spell Kyle?
I don't know.
With
today's world, you never know. Because, like, isn't that Kylie Jenner?
Kylie, is that spelled different?
I don't know.
I don't know. It says there will be Kyles of all ages and sizes that are going to be needed to get close to this record that was set 5 years ago. So all Kyles, we need you. Let's do this. Texas represent. All right, guys. I think that's all we got for this week. That was fun.
Yeah, it was good to see you, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to check us out on all the podcasting platforms. Those numbers are growing every week. Then, of course, if you want to see our ugly mugs and some of the videos that we show, it's on Facebook and YouTube. And, of course, over the air here on 106.1 and 104.5 in Conroe. That's all I got, man.
All right. Don't forget to message us at audienceofoneshow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. I did get a message from somebody. He sent me a funny story. I'm going to have to see if I can work that in next week. So,
yeah, we love hearing stories.
Yeah, I was sent one. So.
And links.
Right. All right. Take it easy, everyone.